Irrespective of how much wealth, assets, and material possessions we may acquire for comfort in our life, the real wealth lies in our health. We have often heard this saying, but in the hustle and bustle of our lives, we have somewhere forgotten it. It has been noticed of late that the majority of our wellness-related problems are due to the wrong lifestyle. Crack the Wellness Code, or CWC as it is commonly known, has its origin in the health hero story of its founder, Mr. Naren Bakshi, a serial entrepreneur of Indian origin in Silicon Valley. He was able to reverse his lifestyle diseases like diabetes, sleep apnea, and obesity by making lifestyle corrections that were backed by ancient Vedic wisdom and Western scientific research. This led to the establishment of India chapter in June 2020, with Wing Commander V.K. Kala leading the Indian operations. As a pilot, the initiative was launched in the name of Pehla Sukh in association with the Indie Family Foundation, with full support from India Community Center and CWC Global in Silicon Valley. This received due adulation from the Honorable Chief Minister Mr. Ashok Gehlot and the then Health Minister of Rajasthan Dr. Raghu Sharma. The encouraging feedback led to the formation of the Indus Wellness Code Trust in April 2021 and finally registered as a Section 8 company under the Companies Act by the name My Crack the Wellness Code Foundation in July 2022. CWC has a dedicated full-time team, doctor patrons, and volunteers with a total focus on wellness. The initiative has conducted more than 50 webinars on various dimensions of wellness such as physical, mental, emotional, and occupational wellness, and so on, with experts from around the globe, including Stanford and Harvard University. Our Wellness Resource Center was established at Mr. Naren Bakshi's ancestral property to run regular wellness activities such as wellness-based events, knowledge and yoga sessions, support group interactions, access to wellness library, and so on. It is located at a prominent commercial hub at Jaipur. Various eminent educational institutions, corporates, and other not-for-profit organizations are already associated with us to work together on spreading the wellness message. This foundation firmly believes that we must take care of our body and mind, as this is the place where we have to spend our entire life. Wellness means that to the extent possible, we should follow good habits in our life so that we remain healthy in all aspects and live our life to the fullest. Healthy mind and thoughts reside in a healthy body, and if we want to live a happy life, then we shouldn't ever let it fall sick. The goal of My CWC Foundation is to bring wellness to the lives of 50 lakh people in 5 years. And for this, our mantra is E, educate, I, inspire, E, empower, and I, impact. Now the question is, how will it happen? First, let's talk about E, which means educate. The foundation will educate its participants through the content, which is available online on our YouTube channel and Khushi app, and offline through content library at a Wellness Resource Center. These resources are based on recommendations by some of the best experts from across the world. We also connect you with our health experts through webinars, workshops, and support groups to be able to get research-based information on wellness. Now comes the I, which means inspire. We inspire participants towards wellness with the support of doctors, health experts, and our health heroes with show and tell approach. E means empower. Participants have the opportunity to choose amongst different support groups, meetups, technology platforms, and mobile applications that empower them to make wellness an integral part of their life. Finally, I means impact. In order to reach its goal of 50 lakh Indians in next 5 years, the Indian chapter of CWC, just like CWC Global, is committed to working on the reversal of lifestyle disorders related to heart, obesity, diabetes, cancer, and mental and behavioral health. Today, India is doing well in various sectors, but when it comes to Global Wellness Index, India ranks fairly low. It is high time that we Indians claim our rightful place in the Health and Wellness Index, and we are sure that we will make an impact there. So, let us all unite in join this cause of a better India, a wellness-oriented India. Very good morning, everyone. I'm Sharad Kamra, your host for today. And we have a very interesting session today. As the topic goes, Decoding Diabetes. It's a 4-session program in which we have, a wonderful expert with us, Dr. Saurabh Jain, to talk about him. Words of you, at such a young age, he has achieved a great feat. And he is an internist in DNB medicine, diabetologist, founder of Arogyam. He's a Rashtratan awardee and has featured as one of the top doctors in Mumbai by the Outlook Survey 2022. So Dr. Saurabh believes in health for all and states that this to be the motivation behind him becoming a doctor. His all efforts are garnered towards helping people live better lives. He has been associated with some of the top hospitals in Mumbai, such as Nanavati Hospital, Breach Candy Hospital, Sir H.N. Reliance Foundation, ACI Kumbala Hill Hospital, and Manjula Badani Chain Hospital, St. Elizabeth, and also Indian Air Force Base Hospital and Central Railways. He blends conventional medicine with traditional Vedic Ayurvedic wisdom and to provide holistic healthcare. Along with consulting patients at his clinic and at hospital, he runs a trust to help the underprivileged with pro bono medical services and financial aid in form of scholarships for higher studies. He's a strong believer in upliftment of the medical community and sharing best practices and knowledge. For this, he contributes his time as a faculty and speaker at various forums. He keeps contributing to the medical research publications internationally. Beyond healthcare, he is an outdoor enthusiast and fond of running marathons, trekking, or even scuba and skydiving. He's a trained skydiver and PADI certified scuba diver. He strongly believes that health is a way of life and it's a journey, not a destination. So true and so inspiring, Dr. Saurabh. So welcome everyone for this wonderful session and welcome to Dr. Saurabh. Just to set the context, we live in, as far as diabetes is concerned, lifestyle disorders are concerned, we live in scary times. Often people mention that. And one of the claims which I read in somewhere is that every 5th person in the world is an Indian suffering from diabetes. So how much of that claim is true, Dr. Saurabh can only tell us. And so Dr. Saurabh, welcome to the session. Thanks a lot for gracing this forum and agreeing to come and share your knowledge on this topic. Dr. Saurabh, for the very first thing that will actually come to our mind is, for many people who may not know enough about diabetes, what in simple terms is it? And let's take things forward from there.
Thank you, Sharaji, for the kind words. And I welcome you all on this Sunday morning session wherein we are trying to decode certain things about diabetes. To begin with, I would like to pay my gratitude to all my teachers because of whom I am over here. And let's address the question about diabetes. What is diabetes? Very simply, sugar बढ़ जाता है तो diabetes हो जाता है. It's so simple. As it is simple, उतना ही वो complex भी है. The term diabetes, it got its origin from the Greek word diabetes. What does it mean? It means to let go. Let go what? Let go sugar. Let go sugar in the urine. So our ancestors, they could link that there was some disease which lead to passage of sugar in the urine, and they termed it as diabetes. This word mellitus, it has got its origin, which is mainly a Latin word. It came much later into existence. And this was added. What does it mean? It means actually sugar. So it actually complete the entire thing. Diabetes means to let go, and mellitus means sugar. To let go of the sugar. But that's the irony. That doesn't happen. In fact, we are accumulating sugar inside us, isn't it? That's what is diabetes all about. Sugar ki bimari. How to define diabetes? A bit more technical aspects of it. Our body, it needs sugar or glucose to meet its energy requirement. अपन मॉल में जाते हैं तो अपने को शॉपिंग करने के लिए करेंसी चाहिए, वैसे ही अपने बॉडी में काम करने के लिए करेंसी चाहिए, और वो करेंसी, one of the currencies is glucose. There are many organs in your body which just cannot work if they don't get a constant supply of glucose. What is the normal range in which the blood sugar should maintain in your blood? Sugar, it should remain in the range of 70 to 100. This is the normal blood sugar range. It should be maintained in this range. At any point of time, if the fasting blood sugar means आप जब भी उठते हैं, सवेरे उठते हैं, उस समय का शुगर अपन चेक करें, if it goes beyond 125, 125 को क्रॉस करके जैसे ही वो 126 तक पहुंचेगा, that becomes diabetes. Similarly, अगर हम खाना खाने के बाद का शुगर चेक करें, 2 hours after we have our food, the sugar should be less than 140. जैसे ही ये शुगर 140 को क्रॉस कर जाएगा, it becomes diabetes. या फिर अगर रैंडमली देखें कि पूरे दिन भर में at any point of time अगर आपका शुगर 200 के ऊपर चला जाएगा, that will become diabetes. So what are the numbers that we are looking at? Fasting blood sugar more than 126, more than 125. खाना खाने के बाद का शुगर more than 140. And at any point of time, sugar, if it goes beyond 200, it becomes diabetes. Now, like we are talking about currency, even our body has various currencies which we can use. And the primary currency, what we use in terms of energy metabolism, is glucose. ग्लूकोज के अलावा भी थोड़े करेंसीज होते हैं जो कि अपन बॉडी में यूज कर सकते हैं, जैसे कि आपके फैटी एसिड्स हैं, आपके प्रोटीन्स हैं, आपके कीटोन्स हैं. ये भी बॉडी में एज ए करेंसी यूज हो सकते हैं. लेकिन कुछ ऑर्गन्स ऐसे होते हैं जिसमें और कोई करेंसी चलती नहीं है, सिर्फ एक ही करेंसी चलती है, वो होता है ग्लूकोज. सो अगर ग्लूकोज की कांस्टेंट सप्लाई ये ऑर्गन्स में को, ये अंगों को नहीं मिलती है, तो अलग अलग तरह की तकलीफें होना चालू हो जाती हैं. कौन कौन से ये अंग हैं? सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट अंग है जो बॉडी का, दैट इज योर ब्रेन एंड द नर्वस सिस्टम. ब्रेन को एक कांस्टेंट ग्लूकोज की सप्लाई मिलना बहुत ही ज्यादा जरूरी है. सेकेंड ऑर्गन जो ग्लूकोज के अलावा काम ही नहीं कर सकता, दैट इज द रेटाइना, मतलब जो कि आंखों का पर्दा होता है. इट कैन नॉट वर्क without the constant supply of glucose. Thirdly is your reproductive organs. They need a constant supply of glucose to do its job. And fourthly are your red blood cells. Means अपने ब्लड में होने वाली लाल कोशिकाएं जो कि आपका हेमोग्लोबिन का संचार पूरे के पूरे शरीर में करते हैं. All these 4 organs need a constant supply of ग्लूकोज इनसाइड देम. अभी सवाल यह आता है कि अगर इन सबको सिर्फ ग्लूकोज चाहिए काम करने के लिए, अगर ज्यादा ग्लूकोज मिलता है, दैट मींस दे शुड बी हैप्पी. मेरे को तो ज्यादा खाना मिल रहा है, मेरे पास ज्यादा करेंसी है स्पेंड करने के लिए, आई शुड बी मोर हैप्पी. व्हाई आई शुड बी सैड? ब्रेन शुड वर्क ओवरवर्क. मेरे को तो बहुत ज्यादा काम करने के लिए बहुत सारा खाना मिल रहा है, मैं तो और अच्छे से काम करूंगा. आईज बोलेंगे मैं तो और अच्छे से देख सकता हूँ. रेड सेल्स बोलेंगे मेरे पास तो हेमोग्लोबिन की और ज्यादा ताकत आ गई है. बट अनफॉर्चुनेटली ऐसा होता नहीं. देयर इज अ बैलेंस व्हिच इज ऑलवेज देयर. व्हाट हैपेंस इन द बॉडी इफ द शुगर लेवल गोज अ लिटिल हाई? द ऑर्गन्स व्हिच आर डिपेंडेंट ऑन शुगर, अगर उनको एक्स्ट्रा शुगर हम दे देंगे तो आइडियली दे शुड बी वर्किंग वेल, बट वो अच्छे से काम क्यों नहीं कर पा रहे हैं? इसके पीछे एक थोड़ा सा साइंटिफिक लॉजिक है. ना अपने बॉडी के अंदर में एक बहुत ही डेलिकेट बैलेंस मेंटेन होता है. या फिर आपको एकदम सिंपल टर्म्स में बोलूं, मान लीजिए अपने पास में थोड़ी किशमिश है, किशमिश को अपन ने पानी में डाल दिया, तो क्या होता है, आपने रात में तो किशमिश पानी में डाली, लेकिन सुबह वो सारे के सारे फूल जाते हैं. Why it happens? It happens because of a process what we call as osmosis. What is osmosis? Osmosis means there is movement of fluid from a state of low concentration to a state of higher concentration. पानी जो बाहर रखा है उसमें तो कॉन्सेंट्रेशन बहुत कम है, लेकिन जो किशमिश है उसके अंदर तो कॉन्सेंट्रेशन जो है बहुत ज्यादा है. तो पानी लो कॉन्सेंट्रेशन से हाई कॉन्सेंट्रेशन की तरफ चला जाएगा और सवेरे आप उठेंगे तो किशमिश फूला हुआ मिलेगा. दैट इज वेरी सिंपल अबाउट ऑस्मोसिस. समथिंग सिमिलर हैपेंस इनसाइड द बॉडी आल्सो. कि अभी आपके शरीर में जितने भी सेल्स हैं, ये सेल्स के अंदर जो ब्लड सप्लाई आ रही है वही खाना लेकर के आ रही है. So there has to be a very fine balance between the internal structure of the cells and the composition of the blood. What we say कि दोनों का टोनिक नेचर एकदम सेम होना चाहिए. अब अगर ब्लड में शुगर लेवल बढ़ जाता है, अगर ब्लड में शुगर लेवल बढ़ा, तो ब्लड जो है ज्यादा हाइपरटोनिक हो गया, मींस ब्लड जो है ज्यादा गाढ़ा हो गया. Now, if we apply the same rule, बॉडी में तो बैलेंस है, सेल के अंदर और सेल के बाहर एकदम सेम कॉन्सेंट्रेशन है. अगर बाहर का कॉन्सेंट्रेशन बढ़ गया तो क्या होगा, सेल्स के अंदर से लिक्विड वाटर निकल करके बाहर जाने लगेगा एंड सेल्स कम इनटू अ स्टेट ऑफ रिलेटिव डिहाइड्रेशन. मीन्स सेल्स जो है वो श्रिंक होना चालू कर दिए. ये सेल्स अगर श्रिंक होना चालू कर दिए तो फिर वो अच्छे से काम नहीं कर सकते. दैट इज द रीजन इवन इफ द ब्लड शुगर इंक्रीजेस इन द ब्लड, brain will not be very happy. In fact, the brain cells will shrink in size and they will not be able to work in the desired way, the way they can. Similarly, अगर ये ब्लड लेवल के अंदर शुगर कंटिन्यूअसली बढ़ा हुआ है, रेगुलरली बढ़ा हुआ है, आफ्टर सम टाइम वी सी दैट दिस हाई शुगर इन द ब्लड कैन लीड टू problems with each organ system. We will be discussing with it. I'm just setting the context. Because sugar जो blood में है वो ज्यादा है, blood शरीर में सब जगह जा रहा है. अगर blood शरीर में सब जगह जा रहा है, that means sugar भी शरीर में सब जगह जा रही है. आपके channels के थ्रू जा रही है, जो blood vessels हैं उसके थ्रू जा रही है. अभी ज्यादा शुगर सब जगह पहुंचने की वजह से शरीर के हर अंगों में after some time we keep on seeing the diseases, what we call as the macrovascular complication, which is the complication happening in the bigger arteries of the body, and the microvascular complication, which is the complications which is happening in the finer arteries of the body. We will be discussing about it later, but this was just a brief about what is diabetes.
Wonderful, excellent, Dr. Saurabh. Such an easy explanation. So, Dr. Saurabh, when we talk about diabetes and, all the indicators we talk about, often the words which are heard is diabetes mellitus, which you have, very well explained where it comes from. And when we talk about type 2 diabetes, we are talking about, and mellitus, we're talking about many add-on things, the comorbidities which, come along with it. And then there are type 1 diabetes, which we talk about, and then there's some gestational diabetes we talk about. So, farak kya hai in तीनों में?
Okay. So, blood sugar जब भी शरीर में ज़्यादा होता है, whenever the sugar level goes high, so there is one molecule in the body, what we call as insulin, which is like the monitor. उसका काम है blood sugar level को कम रखना. Now, consider a hypothetical situation. आप लोग मूवी थिएटर में जा रहे हैं मूवी देखने के लिए, और वहां पे एक गेटकीपर है जिसका काम है आपका टिकट चेक करके आपको अंदर बिठाना. अभी ब्रह्मास्त्र लगी, आप सब लोग ब्रह्मास्त्र देखने के लिए जा रहे हैं, ओके, एंड एवरीवन इज वेरी मच एंथ्यूज, या वी वांट टू सी द मूवी. Now, what will happen if there is no gatekeeper? अगर gatekeeper नहीं है, मतलब सारे के सारे लोग, they can rush into the theater. That's what happens in type 1 diabetes. There is no gatekeeper, means there is no insulin, means whatever blood, whatever अब जो भी sugar body में अंदर जा रहा है, intestines में जा रहा है, there is no check, वो directly पूरा का पूरा आपके blood में आ जाएगा और blood में घूमता रहेगा. Means everyone is having a free time, सब लोग एकदम free में ब्रह्मास्त्र देख करके आ रहे हैं. Second case scenario, you have a gatekeeper, लेकिन उसे काम करने में कोई इंटरेस्ट ही नहीं है. Like ठीक है, जो आ रहा है आओ, जाना जाओ. Means you have someone, but he is not doing his job properly. तो क्या होगा? There are many people who are not having a valid ticket, but they are going inside to have a look in the movie and they are being merry. This is what happens in type 2 diabetes. In type 2 diabetes, there is insulin. It's not that they don't have insulin in the body. They have insulin, but that insulin is not doing its job properly. So that is type 2 diabetes. अभी आप ब्रह्मास्त्र के प्रीमियर शो में आए, अपना वॉचमैन है, बहुत सिंसियर वॉचमैन है, अच्छे से काम करता है सारा का सारा, लेकिन वहां पे देखा कि रणबीर कपूर और आलिया भट्ट भी आ गए, तो क्या करेगा? वो खड़ा रहेगा क्या वहां पे? वो वहां पे खड़ा नहीं रहेगा, वो भाग जाएगा उनका ऑटोग्राफ लेने के लिए, सेल्फी खींचने के लिए. That is your gestational diabetes. Your body is working absolutely fine, but now there is a celebrity inside you, and for some reason your pancreas are just so happy that they're just not working. They're not producing enough insulin. That's what happens in gestational diabetes. Once the celebrity is out, body will again start doing its work properly. दोबारा से insulin management जो है वो properly हो जाएगा. That is type 1, which is insulin dependent, where there is no insulin in the body. Type 2, which is non-insulin dependent, means insulin है body में, but it is not working effectively. And then there is third, which is gestational diabetes.
Oh, wonderful. Such a great simile you have drawn, Dr. Saurabh. I think you have made things very easy for everyone. So you mean to say gestational diabetes के अंदर कुछ challenging situation जब आती है, that is a time when actually, it doesn't function well.
Yes, there are certain molecules which are generated in a mother's body, which create a state जहाँ पे insulin जो body में बन रहा है, या तो वो बराबर से काम कर ही नहीं पाता, और for some reason insulin body में नहीं बन पाता.
Okay, excellent. So is it that, Dr. Saurabh, certain age groups are more vulnerable to certain types of diabetes?
Yes.
Can you say that?
Yeah, we can say that. So before going to that aspect, sorry, I'm just deviating the topic a little bit. We can call them as having the risk factors of diabetes.
Okay.
What are the risk factor of diabetes? Means किसको diabetes हो सकता है? Who are the people who are at risk of getting diabetes? To begin this, I would just like to share a few slides what I have made for you. So these are what we call as the modifiable risk factors and the non-modifiable risk factors. What do you mean by modifiable and non-modifiable? No one wants diabetes. किसी को बीमारी तो चाहिए ही नहीं. आज के जमाने में कोई बोलेगा कि नहीं आपको कुछ बीमारी वाली चीज लेकर के आना है. No one wants it. But there are certain things which are not in our hand, because of which we are at a risk of getting diabetes, that we call as the non-modifiable risk factors. Means आप कुछ भी कर लो, अपन ये चीज को modify नहीं कर सकते. And then there are certain things which are there in our hand, which we can work on to modify the risk of diabetes. They are called as the modifiable risk factors. So what we cannot change, if we want to change the risk, but we cannot change our genes. We cannot change the family history. We cannot change the genetic content that we had got from our ancestors. So if anyone in your first degree relative, he has got diabetes, like let it be your parents, your siblings, our chances of getting diabetes just doubles. Similarly, as we advance, as the age advances, जैसे जैसे अपने body में body organs धीरे धीरे करके कमजोर पड़ते जाते हैं, that also increases your chance of getting diabetes. Now there are certain ethnic group of population, they by themselves have certain genetic makeup जिसकी वजह से उनके अंदर में डायबिटीज काफी ज्यादा देखी गई है. Normally, it is the Afro-American people, the Hispanic people, Latin Americans, the Native Americans, Pacific Islander, and in some Asian public. Also, people, ladies who have a history of PCOD or who have a history of gestational diabetes, or in whom while delivering, they actually delivered a very healthy baby, which was more than 9 pounds. They are some risk factors which can lead to diabetes at a later date. Now, these are something which we cannot change. It's okay even if we have in our life, we cannot do much about it, but there is a lot of risk factors which we can actually change. And if we can label them, the first one comes as inactivity. If you are being lazy, if you don't move around, that is one of the very big risk factors of diabetes. आप activity नहीं कर रहे हैं, आप calories burn नहीं कर रहे हैं, तो definitely at a later date you are at a risk of developing diabetes. Sharaji, there was a very interesting article I would like to share with you. This had come last year, I think in the month of Jan in Times of India, where there was a study where they had said that being inactive means your chair time, आप जितना देर chair पे बैठे रहते हैं या फिर couch पे बैठे रहते हैं, it can cause similar amount of diseases in the body, which is equivalent to smoking. We all know smoking is unhealthy, लेकिन sitting is the new smoking. बिना smoke करे आप smoking के सारे फायदे और नुकसान you can get just by not doing an activity. Second thing is about being overweight. We all know obesity comes with its own bag of challenges. Actually, what happens in obesity is because of the extra amount of fat in the body, it doesn't let your insulin work properly. Means gatekeeper तो आपका अच्छा है, बराबर से काम करता रहता है, लेकिन बाजू में से आकर के लोग उसको परेशान करते रहते हैं, उसको distract करते रहते हैं. That's what happens in obesity. Unhealthy eating, we all know that the food that we are eating is the main reason why we are seeing the physical cells. आपका जो body है, it is finally made up of the food that you have had. It is very important to have the right amount of food, right kind of food, so that the body that is getting formed, the body that we are forming, is a healthy body. Substance abuse like smoking, tobacco, because of the nicotine content in them, they can cause a very important risk factor which leads towards diabetes. And then there are diseases like high blood pressure, like high cholesterol levels in the blood, which can cause diabetes. So coming back to your question, wherein you said which are the age group which are more vulnerable in having diabetes, then I'll say it is mainly young adults who are more than 45 years of age. They are stepping towards diabetes. And in actually today's time, I'll say even once you cross 35 years of age, you are actually entering into that bracket. You are actually going towards that bracket.
Okay. Wow, wonderful. Excellent explanation, Dr. Saurabh. Like one thing which we are able to understand through this is that sitting or, any lack of physical activity is somewhere, doing more damage, and that damage is as good as one is getting by smoking. That is quite an alarming instance. In one of the Silicon Valley doctors session I was watching, and I think perhaps that was the reason why he was saying that sitting is one of the biggest aging factor.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, these days, the way we are sitting also is not proper. Either you are just reclining on the couch, or you are sitting on maybe a chair or some kind of a comfortable thing. और फिर आप बोलेंगे नहीं यार, एंशिएंट जमाने में देखो ना, हमारे ऋषि महाराज भी सब लोग बैठे ही रहते थे, वो कौन से चलते फिरते थे, मैक्सिमम टाइम तो तपस्या करते रहते थे, लेकिन वो ऐसे थोड़ी तपस्या करते थे. They were not reclining and couching. आपको बैठना है, आपको बैठ के काम करना है, बैठिए, प्रॉपर क्रॉस लेग पोजीशन में बैठ करके आप काम करिए, देखिए, इट हैज गॉट इट्स ओन बेनिफिट्स, बट अनफॉर्चुनेटली वी डोंट डू दैट.
And at the same time, they used to do a lot of walk around in the jungles and
Yes.
do yoga. So,
Yes.
yeah, true, very important points. So so if we talk about Dr. Saurabh, like the early signs, early symptoms, so how would actually a patient or anyone gets to know that these are perhaps the indicators that it could be perhaps diabetes, or maybe sugar might be high in the body? So when is the exact time person should become careful? What symptoms, what signs?
That's a very good question, Sharaji, and I'm really thankful that you brought this up, because most of the time, public, because it's a silent disease, we just don't feel anything. And even you would have been a part of this conversation many a times, जहाँ पे patients या public बोलती है, अरे मेरा sugar तो 300 रहता है, मुझे कुछ नहीं होता, I am absolutely fine. It's a normal thing for me. ये तो normal सी बात है मेरे लिए. Because that's the problem, because it's so silent. The disease is just so silent that it keeps on eating your body from inside, and you just don't even know about it. We have seen people, they come up with diseases like a gangrene, जहाँ पे पूरा का पूरा पैर ही आपका सड़ गया, and the culprit is this disease. Pain sometimes I feel is a really good marker, because it draws our attention कि यहाँ पे दर्द हो रहा है, मतलब कुछ तो तकलीफ है. लेकिन it's such a sweet disease that it kills your sensation of pain. आपको पेन फील ही नहीं होता. पेन फील ही अगर आपको नहीं होगा, तो अगर एक छोटी सी पैर में आपको जख्म भी हुआ है, your attention is not drawn towards it, and धीरे धीरे करके वो बढ़ते it reaches to a point wherein we are not able to actually save the limb. But coming back to your question, where we were discussing about what are the initial signs of diabetes, I made a small presentation, a small slide for this, that I would like to share it with you. So these are the most common symptoms, if we can see, about diabetes. A person always feels tired for no reason. Whatever he does, he just feels that, I am just very much tired. And then comes the 3 cardinal signs or 3 cardinal symptoms of diabetes, what we call as frequent urination, polyuria, always thirsty, polydipsia, and always hungry, polyphagia. Now, why this thing happens? Why a person is always urinating? Whenever the concentration of, or the viscosity of the blood increases, like what we were discussing earlier, कि जहाँ पे भी अपन वो homeostasis जो balance है वहाँ को अपन गड़बड़ा देते हैं. जैसे कि blood की viscosity थोड़ी सी बढ़ जाएगी, blood के अंदर में extra fluids आना चालू होगा, because सारे के सारे cells dehydration की state में जा रहे हैं. There will be a movement of fluid from cells to the extracellular compartment. This extra fluid which is coming in the blood also is causing a symptoms what we call as the frequent urination. इसकी वजह से किडनीज आपके बराबर काम नहीं कर पा रही हैं, ब्लड जो है वो ज्यादा एकदम थिक हो गया है, brain is also not able to work properly. Now there is a small sensor in the brain where we call it as a hypothalamus. It is a sensor which regulates your hunger. It's a sensor which regulates your thirst. Now it is a very fine tuning जो कि उसके अंदर में होता है. जैसे ही ब्लड की विस्कोसिटी चेंज होगी, वो फाइन ट्यूनिंग वहां से गड़बड़ा जाएगा, and patient will start feeling excessive thirst, patient will start feeling excessive hunger, which is one of the very cardinal signs of diabetes. But the beauty of the disease is, in spite of being hungry, In spite of being thirsty, you will still continue to lose weight. Because आप जो भी खा रहे हैं वो कहीं ना कहीं बॉडी में एब्जॉर्ब ही नहीं हो पा रहा है. It is not able to give any kind of the necessary nutrients. तो वेट लॉस होना चालू हो जाएगा, आपके हीलिंग इम्पेयरमेंट होना चालू हो जाती है. तो जो भी जख्म होते हैं वो बहुत जल्दी भरते ही नहीं है. People can start having erectile dysfunction, sexual problems. Ladies gets vaginal infection, which is very much persistent. There are tingling, pins and needle sensation in the legs because of the effect of high sugar on the nerves. There is blurriness in the vision, which is because of the retina, which is getting an extra supply of sugar and it's not able to work properly. So these are just very basic signs what can draw our attention that something somewhere is amiss, that we have to pay attention to.
Okay. Understood. So, Dr. Saurabh, like what we have heard is that this disorder doesn't happen all of a sudden. And you also rightly mentioned that, the inside thing is happening and then, we are not paying attention to it. What we get. So I think this is from where this word pre-diabetes stage comes from.
Yes,
so,
absolutely.
So we can call it a warning sign. So what exactly happens? One could really gauge that perhaps it could be that. What could be that stage?
Yes, that's a very, very important question that you have put through, I must say. कोई भी बीमारी अपने शरीर में इतनी इजीली आती नहीं है. ये हमारी सालों की मेहनत है, इसकी वजह से बीमारी शरीर में आई. तो ये जो मेहनत वाला फेज है, that is your pre-diabetes. Now I had said that अपना बॉडी के अंदर जो ऑप्टिमम शुगर लेवल होना चाहिए, that is between 70 to 100. एंड जब भी ब्लड शुगर 125 के ऊपर चला गया, इट बिकम्स डायबिटीज. अभी ये जो बीच का पीरियड है बिटवीन 100 एंड 125, ये जो ग्रे जोन है, जो कि आप ना यहाँ के हैं ना वहां के हैं, हेल्दी भी नहीं है और डायबिटिक भी नहीं है, दिस ग्रे जोन इज कॉल्ड एज प्री डायबिटीज. जब भी आपके शुगर ये रेंज में आते हैं, दैट मीन्स दैट योर चांसेस ऑफ प्रोग्रेसिंग into diabetes are very, very high. But if at this point, if you are doing regular intervention to control your sugars, your lifestyle, then there is a good amount of a chance where you can take a step back and go towards normalcy. That is about pre-diabetes. Similarly, we say the random blood sugar is more than 200. Then we call it as a diabetes. खाने का शुगर जब भी 140 से 200 के बीच में रहता है, तो ये जो जोन है, this zone also is termed as pre-diabetes. Okay, so this is about pre-diabetes.
Okay. So, Dr. Saab, you were talking about the test, and then, I mean, often anyone who has any high blood sugar issues, they have monitors at home. Nowadays, it's, quite a common thing to find that at home, if there is even a single diabetic patient at home. And so question is, how frequently one should be monitoring these kind of things? And is it that once there is one patient in family, you talked about family history also. So once there is one patient in the family who has diabetes, so others should also become careful. So what exactly you suggest here?
So normally what I suggest is for people who are under the age of 40 years, we suggest them to do an yearly health checkup in which we are checking your sugars, your cholesterol profile, your liver markers, kidney markers, hemoglobin, and the basic blood work. After 45, every 6 monthly, we suggest that you should be checking your sugars and your HbA1c levels and cholesterol levels. If one of the family member, one of your first degree relative is having diabetes, then you have to watch it every 6 months.
Okay, great, interesting. This is very important knowledge for all of us, I think. And, we need to really become careful. And especially if you've already got to know that you're in a pre-diabetic stage, it's time ke samajh jao.
Yes.
Dr. Saurabh, can you talk a little bit about how diabetes as a disorder really got discovered? Even in ancient, I mean, in Ayurveda text, we've been talking about, jab madhumeh ki baat ki jati hai, and when where they used to check by the texture of the urine that whether the person is suffering from this or not. So, according to allopathy and the science that you practice, so where does the origin go, and how it really got discovered?
Actually, even I don't know when was the first person of diabetes was being diagnosed. But in the ancient text, as old as 3300 BC, especially in the Egyptian culture in Memphis, the Apollonius of Memphis, he had mentioned about a disease which was similar to diabetes. In the Indian subcontinent, we all know about our great Maharishi Charak, who had also written the Charak Samhita. In that, he had mentioned about Madhumeh. Madhumeh means same. Madhu means madhur, which is sweet, and May means the urine. So they had this understanding that there is this disease which can cause the passage of sugar through the urine. And he had also mentioned that these are the group of people who don't put on much weight. They are more susceptible of getting infections. They are more susceptible of getting diseases, and their lifespan is very limited. So even at Charak was in around 3rd or 4th century AD. At that time also, we had known about diabetes. The term diabetes, like we said, had its origin, which is a Greek word. So it has been said that I think it was in Cappadocia, a scientist by the name Aredeco. He was the one who had studied on it and had coined this term about diabetes. But the term mellitus, it was added in 16th century by Robert Willis, who was a Latin scientist. And then he also added that what we are letting go is the sugar, and sugar is coming through the urine. And the first time it was being diagnosed, or we discovered that it's the insulin which is the main thing about controlling diabetes. And insulin is produced by your pancreas. This was first discovered in the year 1889 by two Austrian scientists, Mismer and Myomer. And this was a very path-breaking discovery, wherein they could actually identify that the insulin is produced by pancreas, which led to the discovery what we all are very much aware of, because it has set a stepping stone for Benting and Best, which are the Canadian scientists who in 1920s, they had first identified or first made insulin in the form of an injection, which can be used as a medicine to control diabetes. And the first tablet that we are actually, now is a time for tablets, what we are using. The first tablet was being discovered in the year 1955. And it was the first generation of the medicine, what we call as the sulfonylurea. The tolbutamide was the name of the medicine, the molecule which was being made. But they had their own share of side effects. We don't use them these days. Now we are using much more advanced version of what was being used now. That was, if we can say, the first generation. Now what we are using is the 4th generation of diabetes medication.
Okay, excellent. So, sort of like, there are a couple of things that we often hear about is that there are certain types of bodies. Maybe is there an anatomical difference amongst people? Some people become, kind of bodies become more vulnerable. In Ayurveda, we often talk about that, people who have, a pitta prakriti, they are, more vulnerable to certain things. And similar is talked about, say, for example, you talked about races, you talked about genders. So how would we get to know, according to you, that, yes, these kind of people could be more vulnerable? So are there certain body signs?
I will put it into two things.
Mm-hmm.
First will be if we can say about a person's physical appearance, then a person who is overweight or who is obese or who is having more of a central obesity. Central obesity means like जहाँ पे maximum fat आपका is around your belly. That is what we'll call it as central obesity. These are the people who are more vulnerable in getting type 2 diabetes. They are having insulin in them, but these kind of fat deposits, they produces certain hormones, certain molecules, what we call as the leptins, the adiponectins. They don't let the insulin work properly. They change the structure of insulin which is getting formed. या फिर अगर इस तरीके से अपन इसको समझें कि अपना जो घर में किचन है, किचन इज सेल्फ सफिशिएंट इन टेकिंग केयर ऑफ 4 पीपल. घर में 4 लोग हैं, चारों का वहां पे इजीली काम हो सकता है. इजीली अभी घर में 4 की जगह पे अगर 10 लोग आ गए खाना खाने के लिए, वी हैव लिमिटेड सप्लाई, बट वी विल नॉट बी एबल टू फीड ऑल ऑफ देम. Similarly, your body organs are designed in a way, your pancreas is designed in a way, it can take care of a certain weight. We have a formula, what we go through. What is your ideal body weight? Your height in centimeters minus 100 should be your ideal body weight. मान लीजिए you are 175 centimeters, your ideal body weight should be 75 kg. Very simple. चलो गिव एंड टेक 5 kg भी अपन ने ऊपर नीचे कर दिया. 70 to 80 के बीच में आपका आइडियली वेट होना चाहिए. The most common problem what we are seeing in the present generation is obesity. Obesity has become an epidemic right now, if I can say that.
Yes.
Most of the people you will see around, they are having a weight of 100 kg. Your body, your pancreas can support 75. You are giving it a weight of 100, which is 1/3 of an extra amount of a load that he has to take care of. एक दिन ठीक है, 2 दिन ठीक है, 3 दिन ठीक है, 4 दिन ठीक है, 1 महीना ठीक है. बोलेगा बस कर यार, बहुत हो गया, अभी इससे ज्यादा मैं नहीं कर सकता. I cannot produce the same quality of food. I don't have that much amount of reserves.
Right.
That's why obesity is one very important risk factor. The second aspect is about stress. The stress जो हम चाहे mental level पे हो, चाहे physical level पे हो, चाहे emotional level पे हो, whenever you are in a state of stress, there are a lot of stress hormones which are released in your body. Again, स्ट्रेस हॉर्मोन्स जो बॉडी में रिलीज होंगे वो बॉडी में एक ही जगह पे केंद्रित नहीं रहेंगे, पूरे बॉडी में सब जगह पे. दे विल गो एवरीवेयर and they are going to hit those organs which are most vulnerable. So stress also plays one very important role. The people who are very anxious, who are very stressed, they have definitely an upper edge in getting diabetes.
Interesting, very interesting. These are very thought-provoking, points which you have brought forward, Dr. Sarup, and I think every Indian needs to look towards it. Perhaps we are serving, according to the land, we have more people and competition and so many things which are happening. So from your perspective, why Indians are considered to be more prone to diabetes? I mean, I just in the beginning of the session I shared one of the research that every 5th person suffering from diabetes in the world is an Indian. So, I mean, how do you look at it?
Yeah. So I would like to take you back to one of my slides where we discussed about the modifiable and the non-modifiable risk factors. And if you see the non-modifiable risk factors, उसमें जो race है, उसमें कहीं भी Indians का नाम नहीं है. We can see the Americans, we can see Africans, we can see Native Americans. There are no Indians.
There are no Indians.
There are no Indians. But you very rightly said, every 5th Indian, he is predisposed of having diabetes. Who is to be blamed to? Us. We are workaholics. We are absolutely workaholics. आप 7 दिन बोलोगे काम करने के लिए तो 7 में से 8 दिन काम कर लेंगे. 24 hours में 26 hours काम करेंगे. We are just so much driven towards work Let it be because of financial reasons, let it be for any other kind of a drive. But in that drive, what we are neglecting is our own emotional health. We are neglecting our physical health. We have to understand that on a daily basis, we have to give some time to our physical self also. जब तक आपकी गाड़ी अच्छी नहीं है, तब तक आप ड्राइविंग नहीं कर सकते. गाड़ी को भी रिपेयरिंग की जरूरत पड़ती है. आप मुझे बताओ, have you ever seen an Indian who has taken a wellness break?
Rarely
साल
heard.
में दो दिन भी ऐसा कोई आदमी स्पेंड करता है क्या कि नहीं, ये 2 दिन जो है ना सिर्फ मेरे लिए, मुझे मेरी बॉडी की रिपेयरिंग के लिए जाना है. Lately this concept has been coming up, yet beginning to put attention to it, but that is one aspect we don't pay much attention to.
Very
चलता है.
small portion of population people taking wellness, going for wellness retreats or something. It's not so common. Yes, people at a certain strata of society have started doing it, but I think still the larger population is very vulnerable.
Yes,
and susceptible to the stress factor.
There's so many people who are behind you. It's like you are not irreplaceable. अगर आप नहीं जाओगे तो कोई है. There is someone else to replace your job.
Yes.
You want to be in the good eyes of your boss, so you have to put in something extra. But at what cost? I think that's the main reason why we are seeing a lot of emotional diseases in Indians, and that is one of the reasons also why we are seeing a rise in diabetes in Indians.
Okay. Well, a lot of knowledge is flowing in this session. Dr. Saurabh is not just sharing his perspective, but actually also opening up our eyes actually to start looking at our own health from a new lens. So, Dr. Saurabh, when a patient, any case of high blood sugar comes to you, so how do you plan for the person's recovery path? What is the first suggestion? How does your protocol goes for the therapy?
So whenever a person comes to me and he has just got about diabetes, I like to hear him out. I try to understand what are the challenges that he's facing, what kind of a lifestyle he's following, what kind of diet he is having, what kind of a family support he has got. It gives me an understanding about his background, because diabetes, the treatment of diabetes is not only about just giving the medications, because what you had said rightly in the beginning of today's session, that it is a lifestyle related disease. It's a disease, but it is because of your faulty lifestyle. So we have to correct, we have to identify. First, we have to identify where they are going wrong. And then we have to discuss it out with them, the options that they can work on correcting those problems, those gray areas. Most of them, they require a little bit of motivation to start their physical activity. We have to make them aware that being a couch potato is not going to help you. You have to be a little bit more mobile. They need a little bit of counseling about their diet. The food that you are eating is not right. We have to give them a bit of an emotional support to make sure that they are having an emotional well-being. And after doing this, we give them a time to observe for at least around 2 to 3 weeks. And in spite of this, if the sugars are not under control, then we have to initiate them on medication.
Okay. So, Dr. Saurabh, that could be what you are suggesting is by and large related to the type 2 diabetes.
Yes.
But if we talk about, say, for example, yesterday someone approached me and talked about a daughter who is 9 years old and she's suffering from diabetes. So what does it happen for such genetic, childhood, diabetes?
So if we can put in an age difference between the type 1 and type 2. Type 1 diabetes, where we see that there is no insulin in a person's body, is normally seen in young children or young healthy adult. Either by birth, their pancreas is not been working well, and they have this disorder wherein the insulin is not getting formed. They are more of type 1. There are a certain diseases of pancreas, what we can acquire at a later age in our life, which can also affect formation of insulin at a later date. They are type 1 diabetes. Because there is no insulin which is getting formed. Only lifestyle control will not help. They need to be on medication. They need to be on insulin. The only medicine which is available for them is insulin. We have to control their sugars with the help of insulin.
So you mean to say kind of an artificial control to compensate for pancreas not functioning practically?
Yeah, something what is not being produced inside your body, we are replacing it. It's the most natural medicine. Something which is not being produced. आपके पास में वॉचपेन नहीं है, मैं मेरा वॉचपेन आपके पास में खड़ा कर देता हूँ.
Okay, understood. Wonderful. And Dr. Saurabh, on the contrast, if you look at senior citizens, a diabetic case identified a little early, and as they walk through and get into upper age, they develop a lot of resistance, and immunity is also towards certain things, medicines, precautions they might be already taking. So question is there still hope for them to plan a recovery, or they would still remain dependent on insulin and other things?
जो बीमारी को शरीर में जितना टाइम होता जाता है, वो शरीर में उतना घर बनाते जाता है. सिंपल अगर अपन प्लास्टर ऑफ पेरिस का एग्जांपल लें, व्हेन इट इज सॉफ्ट यू कैन मोल्ड इट. एक बार मोल्ड हो गया फिर इससे अपन ज्यादा कुछ नहीं कर सकते. वी कैन जस्ट होप कि धीरे धीरे करके घिस घिस करके वी आर एबल टू मोल्ड इट बेटर. Similarly, the same thing happens with diabetes. The control of blood sugar is not only limited to your medications. There has to be a big amount of self-discipline also. You have to create a state of emotional harmony inside your system. You have to cut down on your level of stress. You need to have the right kind of a diet. You need to work out regularly. And you need to do them consistently. जो डायबिटीज आपके शरीर में आया है, ये आपके सालों की मेहनत है. एक या दो दिन की वजह से नहीं आया है. तो सिर्फ एक या दो दिन आपने मेहनत किया उसको भगाने का, तो उससे भी वो जाने वाला नहीं है. You have to adopt this lifestyle, follow these things religiously, consistently. Then we can expect your diabetes to reverse. If you are not disciplined, if you are not correcting the mistakes that you are doing, how can we expect it to reverse?
Okay. So, I mean, we are discussing about, things, we should start doing, and we are talking about things we should also, to some extent, we should stop doing. There is an opportunity cost for everything. So if you are, you pay the price for what you're not doing, good to your body. That is understandable. But are there certain aggravating factors, Dr. Saurabh, which can make the case worse, and people might be unaware doing those kind of things? Maybe certain kind of food which are, propagating diabetes further can worsen the situation?
Yes. So we call them as the catalysts. So these are the factors in your lifestyle which can just multiply the disease inside. Food, and I'm very happy that we are having a subsequent session where we'll be discussing this part in great detail about how to correct the food. But I cannot resist myself in just putting a couple of points about this.
That will set a precursor to our next session also.
Yes. That it is very essential to have the right kind of food. What is right kind of food? Right kind of food is the food of the land. आप जहां पे रहते हैं उस जगह की जो staple diet है, that is the best diet for you. That is rule number 1. आप केरला में रहते हो, आपको कोकोनट ऑयल हजम कर जाएगा. अब यही चीज आप बिहार में जाके फॉलो करोगे, आपको हजम नहीं होगा. Food of the soil is very essential. Number 2, and this is what we have to pay attention to, is that as far as possible, we should try to have fresh food which is devoid of any preservatives. If you are having preservative-free food, definitely your body will function in a much better way. Not to put blame on the various products that we get in the supermarket, but just a simple thought-provoking thing. अपन एक सिंपल केचप भी लेकर के आते हैं जब भी मार्केट से, हर बॉटल में टेस्ट सेम होता है, isn't it? भले टोमेटो केचप हो चाहे मस्टर्ड हो. How is it possible? How is it possible that you can have the same kind of taste, you can maintain the same thing? Ab same taste of all the drinks are just being maintained. How is it possible?
The preservatives.
It's only because of preservatives. And preservatives are just going to do harm in your system. They are very difficult to digest. They don't let your body function in an appropriate way. So as far as possible, have food of the land and have freshly made food.
To add to this, Dr. Saurabh, we've often heard about, although in detail we'll be discussing the nutrition part, but if you could shed some light on, often what we hear from the nutritionist when talking about food with high glycemic index or low glycemic index.
So what is glycemic index? अपन जो भी खाना खा रहे हैं, it is bound to give us energy. अब जो भी खाओगे, उसमें से बॉडी में ग्लूकोज बनेगा ही बनेगा. ओके, सो अभी अपन उस खाने को किस तरीके से कैटेगराइज करें? सो वहां पे ये ग्लाइसेमिक इंडेक्स का कंसेप्ट आया. व्हाट इज ग्लाइसेमिक इंडेक्स? आप ऐसे मान लीजिए, आपने हर चीज के 100 ग्राम्स मॉलिक्यूल्स ले लिए. आपने 100 ग्राम एप्पल ले लिया, 100 ग्राम पाइनएप्पल ले लिया, 100 ग्राम राइस ले लिया, 100 ग्राम व्हीट ले लिया, 100 ग्राम रागी ले लिया, 100 ग्राम बाजरा ले लिया. अभी क्वांटिटी सब में सेम है, लेकिन ये सेम क्वांटिटी विल हैव डिफरेंट इफेक्ट ऑन योर ब्लड शुगर लेवल. राइस से आपकी ब्लड शुगर ज्यादा बढ़ेगी, सेम अमाउंट ऑफ एप्पल से शायद बढ़ेगी पर उतना नहीं बढ़ेगी. So that is what we call as glycemic index. The food products which increase your sugar more, they are high glycemic index. Food which is producing your sugar, which is increasing your sugar but at a lower level, they are low glycemic index. So in diabetes or in general health, we should be focusing or we should be having more food which is having low glycemic index.
Great, excellent, wonderful. We have had, such a thought-provoking discussion with Dr. Saurabh, and we've tried to make things very simple for everyone to understand. So, Dr. Saurabh, as we next week we'll be moving into next session. Is there some advice you would like to give to all those who are watching this session today?
First of all, I would really like to congratulate you, and I would like to say thanks to all the organizers for actually organizing about diabetes, because it is such a need of the hour. We all, none of the people actually want to be diseased, but unfortunately we are doing a lot of things knowingly, unknowingly, which are making us more vulnerable towards getting the disease. And diabetes these days has just become like a white elephant in the room. You just cannot ignore it, and you cannot live with it also. So we all want to stay away from the disease, but the only way to do it is to lead a disciplined lifestyle. Have a good, healthy, nutritious meal, have a good exercise schedule in place, and please pay due attention on your emotional health.
Great, excellent. Thank you so much, Dr. Saurabh. Thanks a lot for your time indeed. A lot of thought-provoking ideas came, knowledge, which is going to be really very helpful. सब लोगों को कुछ ना कुछ ऐसा मिला है कि कहाँ पर करेक्ट करना है कुछ, तो वो जरूर कर सकते हैं. And we can have few questions if anyone wants to come up and ask any question, can raise hand and then we will unmute you.
Dr. Saurabh, I have a question. Does diabetes also impact sleep in people?
Yes, it does. So this is one of those diseases which does not spare any of the organs. So sleep also is been affected in patients who are having diabetes.
And the only way to manage this is to control diabetes, or there's something else also they can do?
More than controlling the diabetes, it is the emotional well-being what is needed. What is sleep? Sleep basically is a state where your mind reaches a state of thoughtlessness. वहां पे हम पहुंचते नहीं है, माइंड में थॉट्स प्ले ही करते रहते हैं, वरी करते रहते हैं, तो नींद नहीं आती.
Okay, so simple. So simple. You explained it in such a nice way. It may not be so easy to implement it though. But that's a good food for thought.
Great, excellent. So there is one question coming. One hand is raised. Vandana ji, can we unmute Vandana ji? Vandana ji, can you please turn on your video? Yeah. Azhar, can we unmute Vandana?
Hello, am I audible, sir?
Yes, please.
So, my question is that मेरे फादर जो थे उनको टाइप 2 डायबिटीज थी, और अभी राइट नाउ मुझे कुछ समय से जैसे बहुत टायर्डनेस फील हुई, और जैसे आपने बताया अभी कि अगर आप डायग्नोज होते हैं, जैसे मैं गई डॉक्टर के पास और उन्होंने जब मेरा HbA1c किया तो दैट वाज मोर देन 7.5. तो अब ये जानने के बाद जैसे बहुत एक शॉकिंग लगा मुझको, तो कुछ भी आइडिया नहीं, लेकिन आज जब सुना आपके सेशन में तो बहुत सारी चीजें मुझे भी क्लियर हुई. गई डॉक्टर के पास, उन्होंने सिंपली मुझे बस मेडिसिन स्टार्ट कर दिए, और मैंने कभी मेडिसिन ली नहीं थी, मैं कभी मेडिसिन लेती नहीं थी. तो आपने बताया कि जैसे आप जानते हैं जब कोई आपके पास आता है और पहली बार अगर कोई डायग्नोज हुआ है तो ऐसा कुछ हुआ ही नहीं. मैं बहुत ज्यादा डर गई, और शायद वो स्ट्रेस, वो एंजाइटी बहुत बढ़ गया वो.
Then Varnaji, I must say that you have come to the right forum, because here is what we are discussing about, is about how to proceed ahead if you have got diabetes and what are the things that we can do to reverse diabetes. Trust me, stay with us. The following sessions, what we have planned for you, are actually addressing to the questions what you have in your mind about how to plan your diet ahead, how to plan out the exercises, and what we can do to achieve an emotional well-being.
Yes, sir.
वंदना जी, आप कहाँ बेस्ड हैं?
सर मैं जयपुर में हूँ सर.
Okay.
Okay, excellent. So, Saurabh, this is from your hometown also.
Sorry.
Yes. Jaipur is my hometown. I'm based in Bombay, but Jaipur is my hometown.
सर मेरा क्वेश्चन यही है कि मैं मेडिसिन पे नहीं जाना चाहती, क्या ये रिवर्स हो सकता है हेल्दी डाइट से ही? और
जी, वही हम सब कोशिश कर रहे हैं. इस सेशन का मेन पर्पस वही था कि किसी को भी दवा लेना अच्छा नहीं लगता, बट किसी को साइमल्टेनियसली बीमार होना भी अच्छा नहीं लगता. सो आई वोंट से कि मेडिसिन्स आर बैड. We will have to take the medications, but simultaneously we will have to work on the other aspects also. आपको आपका डाइट को कंट्रोल करना, आपके एक्सरसाइजेस बराबर से करना, इमोशनल वेलबींग पे फोकस करना बहुत ही ज़्यादा ज़रूरी है. जैसा आपने बताया कि आपके फैमिली में आपके पिताजी को डायबिटीज़ है, that is one very strong risk factor that you have, which puts you into a risk group. But definitely by working on these three factors, we can minimize on the risk that you are carrying, and we can ensure that we are maintaining normal blood sugar by following these interventions.
Great, excellent. So, Dr. Saurabh, so do we have any other question? We can take one more question. So, Shalini ji has a question. So, Shalini ji, you want to ask something?
No, I just was mentioning in a different way what Dr. Saurabh said, that Gene closes the gun and lifestyle pulls the trigger. Well,
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's a good tagline, Sharaji. You can use that.
Very true.
no, I highly appreciate what you spoke. I was throughout, and I highly appreciate this session you have started.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Wonderful. Thanks a lot to everyone for your response. And Dr. Saurabh, we have with us Kala sir, who's asking a question for you. For everyone's knowledge, Wing Commander Kala, he is our managing trustee. So it's over to you, Kala sir, for vote of thanks.
Thank you, Sharad. Thank you so much for conducting session so well and asking inciting questions. And Dr. Saurabh answering them so beautifully. And I really like the simile that you talked about gatekeeper, type 1, type 2, and gestational diabetes. I'm sure anybody who has listened to this session will not forget that. It remain in our minds forever to go. Other thing you talked about was sitting is new smoking. So that's another thing that we are hearing a lot nowadays. And, there's one Dr. Naras Bhatt, as part of the CWC Global, based out of US. And what they recommend for a lot of offices is, remove the chairs. They have created work platforms where you work standing. So stand, you're walking, but you're not sitting. So absolutely right, you are on that. And then we also heard about optimum sugar levels, what they should be, and when to monitor that. And based on whatever results you see, when to start taking action. Food, of course, is coming out of late as one of the major factor for most of the lifestyle diseases that we suffer, and diabetes also is one of them. So again, very good. You talked about two things, eat food of the land. And second thing you talk about is eat fresh food. At times I feel, this facility of fridge that we have in our homes, kind of plays against this because you tend to keep food there and, eat it after a few hours. Traditionally, when you go in our society, food should be eaten within a few hours of cooking, right? That's what it has been most probably to ensure that nutrients are not destroyed.
Yes.
So thanks so much. Thanks once again, both of you, and thanks to all our listeners. I'd just like to share a PowerPoint and thank our partners. Just let me know if my screen is visible. Is my screen visible?
Not yet, sir. I think it's not connected.
1 minute. Just bear with me. Is it visible now?
Yes, it's visible now.
Okay. So as we have been highlighting, this is a series on diabetes in 3 parts. We had the part 1 today, understanding various types of diabetes and identifying them. And we heard so beautifully, and I think most of us will remember what we heard today, especially because of the way it was explained by Dr. Saurabh. Next session, as we pointers we got in the session would be on diet and nutrition for diabetics. So I'm sure it'll help a lot of us. And after that, we'll talk about, so this next session will be on next Sunday, 25th of September, 11 a.m. Our expert for this will be Dr. A. Sri Kumar. Again, a very different kind of doctor who treats patients in a very different fashion, and will be moderated by Dr. Vandana Garg, who is our nutritionist. So do join in for that session. And after that third session, we'll again have Dr. Saurabh back, and we'll talk about lifestyle changes to manage and reverse diabetes to answer the question that we had today. Some of our partners who have been helping us out, we would like to thank all of them. They are our strategic knowledge partners and community partners, a whole lot of them. Then we have area development partner, we have corporate wellness partners, NGO partners, and wellness partners. So this tells you about how many people who are helping us, how many organizations who are helping us run these programs on a periodic basis. Thanks to all of them. Our pro bono partners who help us, with software development or who help us manage legal issues, financial issues. So thanks to all of them. This is our team of doctors. We have Dr. Sudhir Bhandari. Most of the people from Rajasthan would know him. Dr. Sheila Nambiar. She is president of Indian Society of Lifestyle Medicine. So they are our advisors. And then we have Dr. Sunil Jain, Dr. Rashmi Jain, Dr. Chavi Mehra, who help us create these programs. And incidentally, I would like to share, Dr. Saurabh Jain is son of Dr. Sunil Jain and Dr. Rashmi Jain, so the whole family is so much focused on wellness, and we are so grateful to them. Thank you so much. And then we have our ambassadors, Mr. Mahavir Pratap Sharma, Mrs. Neeta Bujra, and Major General C.P. Singh. Thank you so much for all our ambassadors. Our management team, Mr. Naren Bakshi, who is based out of US and kind of founder of what we are doing today. He was there he wanted to join session for 15-20 minutes, but I think that Dr. Saurabh, the way you conducted it, he was there more or less throughout the session. And I think time out there is right now 11:40. So Bakshi sir, thank you so much for encouraging us. And myself and Commander Kala. And then you heard Sharad Kamra, who conducted the session so well. We have Tushar Garg, Umardin ji, and Mohammad Azharuddin, who takes care of the Zoom and creation of content for video content and slides and all for us. So you can follow us on YouTube, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. So do join us and do share these links with your friends and family who can benefit from these. We had a session earlier on obesity, and where we heard, so far we used to hear we are what we eat. The new mantra is we are what we eat. Next step is what we metabolize out of that what we eat. As Dr. Saurabh also said, what happens at a cellular level, sugar level inside the cell and outside the cell, and what you absorb, and finally what you detox, because that's also equally important. Once again, to a reminder, this is a 3-part series. Next in this series will be on diet and nutrition for diabetics. This is on coming Sunday, 25th of September, 11 a.m. Our expert, Dr. A. Shukumar, and our expert moderator, Dr. Vandana Garg. So once again, thank you so much from Mike Craig, the Wellness Code Foundation. We are located at Pachpatti, Jaipur. I would also like to share, we also have what we call a wellness resource center at this place, which is very close to your Raj Mandir in Jaipur. So please do drop in. Our people are there to help you, to share right content with you, which can help take care of the issues that you might have. We are available on this website, thewellnesscode.org. And also now, other pointer we have is india.mycwc.org. We can be reached on 733-995-1157. So do join us and keep in touch. Thank you so much once again. Thank you, Dr. Saurabh. Thank you, Sharad, for conducting so well. And thanks to all our listeners for being there with us all through the session. Look forward to see you next week. Have a great day.